Magnus played against none other than a former world champion Vladimir Kramnik. In round 7, Gashimov Memorial 2015, Azerbaijan. Time control classic. 2 hours for the first 40 moves. And here are the 10 players who participated. Magnus won the tournament. And today I want to show you how true champions fighting. Magnus opens with e4. Kramnik replies e5. Knight f3, knight c6, and bishop b5. Roy Lopez is on the board. Knight f6 and d3. Black developing the bishop and c3, preparing to push the pawn. Castles, castles, and d6 opens the way for the light square bishop. So Magnus plays h3, knight e7, remaneuvering the knight, and d4. And after bishop b6, it seems like a boring, solid position from the first look. And here, instead of developing the pieces, Magnus playing a move that probably he prepared at home, bishop d3. The position still equal, so Kramnik immediately strikes in the center, d5, and Magnus plays knight d2. And already there is a lot of tension in the position. For example, if black wants to isolate this pawn and take on d4, immediately e5, knight h5, because you don't want to play with the knight back, and for example knight g5, g6, c takes d4, bishop takes, knight h7, and black must accept the knight because of white attack. So for example, king takes, queen takes knight, king g8, and after queen e2, white playing here for a win. So Kramnik plays d takes e4, and Magnus capture with the knight. So black captures the knight, bishop takes, and pawn takes pawn. And it seems like white will play with isolated pawn, but Magnus play queen c2, and black don't want to allow this capture with the check, because this is a big attack for white. So h6. And again Magnus plays not obvious move, a4. And he invites Kramnik to capture this pawn. Kramnik plays c6 to develop the bishop. Here if black capture the pawn, rook d1, queen e8, a5, bishop c5, queen takes c3, bishop d6. And after b4, white has an attack and the initiative. So Magnus play rook d1, knight d5, and Magnus captures the pawn with the knight. The rook goes to the open file, and now Magnus playing like a machine. a5, sacrificing a pawn. Okay, bishop takes, and knight f3, preparing to pin the knight. And the queen can't move from this diagonal to protect the bishop. So black plays the only move, b5, to stop this threat. But now knight d4 and bishop c7. So in this position knight takes the pawn, black moves the queen, g3. So Kramnik plays bishop b7. White keep the tension and play bishop f4. And black can take the bishop because of the pin. So queen takes the knight and bishop d5. And already white has a big advantage, like pawn and a half. But Kramnik finds a very interesting idea to get an equal position. But does it work? Kramnik plays rook e1 check. And if white takes the rook, queen takes bishop, queen e4, queen takes e4, rook takes, bishop takes rook. And after bishop takes bishop, this position probably will be a draw with opposite color bishops. But Magnus plays king h2 and Kramnik goes for it. Queen takes bishop, rook takes queen, rook takes rook, and rook d1, and rook exchange. Kramnik doesn't give up. Rook d8, queen e2. Kramnik looking at this diagonal. Bishop b6, bishop e3, and bishop takes bishop. Queen takes, and rook d1, threatening checkmate. g4, open and escape, bishop c6, and queen c5. Bishop d7, Magnus collecting the pawns, rook d2, king g3, check, king f4, king h7, queen b7, and rook d2, king e3, rook d6, and f4. Black position is hopeless now. g6, queen b8, rook d5, king e4, bishop e6, queen b7, rook c5, and king d4. Rook c4 check, king e5, b4, but it doesn't work. C pawn takes, rook c2, king f6, and black must protect the king. Rook takes pawn, queen b8, and rook f2. And Magnus play f5. And you can't take with the bishop, because pawn takes, and if pawn takes, queen g3. And you can't stop the checkmate. Also, if you take with the rook, just king e7, and this pawn is running. So g pawn takes, and queen g3. Kramnik has nothing to do, he plays rook f1, but Magnus playing beautiful move g5, and Kramnik resigned the game. If black plays f4, white simply plays queen h4, and next move checkmate. And if h pawn takes, queen takes, and you can't stop checkmate. Check and checkmate. Beautiful game between two champions.